Hey guys, CWHolo1 here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're continuing with the theme of just all of the wheels. This is Lionel's 2231260. It is a Union Pacific 9000 series, number 9002, and I believe the early paint scheme. And yeah, you are looking at that correctly. This is a 412-2 on a rigid frame chassis. And right now it's not turning any of its 6 drive axles because there's something going wrong with the motor. And it's also not making any sounds, which is mildly concerning. So I'm going to be diving into this today, and we're going to see if we can get it fixed. Now, real quick, before I show you guys the current state, because I'm going to try to remember how to do that, I just want to chat about the 9000 series because I think it's really funny. These were 3-cylinder, 6-axle, rigid frame monsters with massive amounts of tractive effort that couldn't go around corners and had the tiniest frickin' tender compared to the locomotive. I'm assuming that they were just for helper service. I don't really know a ton about the 9000 series other than just, it's a lot of wheels. But I'm guessing that it was just helper service because you're not getting very far on that with that big of an engine. But maybe that was one of the design flaws with it. I'm not sure. I don't know if these were too successful or not. Somebody's going to have to educate me in the comments on the 9000 series. But yeah, I think it's amusing how tiny the tender is, especially when you look at even Pacifics. That tender is probably the same size as a tender you'd have on a Pacific, which has half the drive axles. The M1s, the PRR Mountain class, has a tender that is probably twice the size of that, and a locomotive that is substantially shorter. So I just find it amusing. The proportionality is just all wrong in my head, but hey, that's what makes it neat. So without further ado, let's get you guys set up, taking a good look at this at the test stand here, and I will fire it up and show you what its current state is. So I actually just real quick tested it out just to make sure that I remembered, how everything was. And the sounds kicked on, which I don't remember happening. I'm actually 100% positive that they just didn't work at all the last time I ran this, or my friend ran it. So yeah, let's fire it up. I'm gonna mute the sounds again. I don't know what that was weird. It should have been muted, but it wasn't. Okay, anyway, if I step this out, it goes around fairly smoothly, and then it gets hung up somewhere. Right there. Bottom of its stroke, it sticks. And I'm not sure if that's on the side rods. If it would be on a side rod, it'd be on the other side because I'm on the mid-stroke on this side. So I may have to flip this around and take a look at that. But this is doing more than it was last time I tested it. So when this was on the layout, it had a little bit of a load on it, and you went to go step it out, and it just wanted to strip out its drivetrain. Did not want to work at all. So this is promising. It's fixed itself a little bit, which is good. I like it when that happens. But yeah, let me flip this thing around and see if I can see any of these side rods getting bound up on the other side. So just looking at it, I don't think the rods are perfectly quartered, but that may just be how these are. You can see it is still getting hung up here in the top left of its stroke now. And it doesn't look like it's any of the valve gear. So I think it is something having to do with the motor, but I can put a load on it and it doesn't start stripping the gear out or anything. Oh, except it really got hung up there. So I think I am going to need to take the shell off of this thing. Also, yeah, I love this about legacy engines and TMCC engines and honestly post-war engines too. They don't need the tender to run, unlike a lot of the upgraded stuff that we do that needs the tender to house all the electronics for the motor control. These have it all in the locomotive, which is really neat. So you can just do this, and the tender is just a host for the rail sounds, which is pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, they're not perfect, but they're pretty well quartered. Okay. let's see. How do we take this apart? I feel like this format really kind of sets me apart from everyone else who does, you know, repair videos on YouTube. Is most of the time they're pretty well educated on what they're doing and how to do it. I just kind of wing it. Okay, the grounding strap goes to the bolt that holds on the front truck. That's sure. Very well then. Okay. I just realized I'm attacking this like it's a brass engine, and it is not. I'm gonna guess that this has a similar situation where there's a wire. No, it doesn't look like it, but there is an E-ring, so I'm just gonna pretend that I didn't take that off and tighten it back down. Okay. That is a weird coupling. So I removed there's two screws back here on, I think it's the rocker beam, and that lifted up the back, and I watched the motor fall in, and yeah, I shouldn't be able to do that. This is on a worm drive. That should be literally physically impossible because of the way that physics works for worm gears. But clearly something is not right. There are a whole lot of screws back here, so if you're taking one of these apart, the 4 I think that are in the base of the firebox, you can leave those be. It's just the 2 in the rocker beam. And then there are supposed to be 4 screws up front, and there are only 3. There's one in this lead hole. There's one in this lead hole. I don't know which of these actually releases the cylinders. There's no screw in that hole, and then this that hole has a screw. Okay, so some of those did something, clearly. How about that? I don't know why I never thought to check that, but that's the provision for the motor. And there's nothing in there. There were no motor screws in this engine. Also, every single screw that I've touched has been loose. It is probably also worth noting that this is one of those new in box, never run things on eBay that I'm very avid about avoiding. Please don't buy anything new in box, especially if it's marked up, because all new in box means is untested, i.e. it doesn't work. And then you end up doing this. So, yeah, and I'm looking in the shell to see if the screws fell in and I just missed it or something. But no. There is just nothing there. That's bizarre. Okay, well, I don't know if I have screws that I can just throw in to fix that. This may be going to Lionel. Alright, so I've managed to extract the frame from the shell, or the boiler. There's a whole lot of connectors that hold it together, so that's fun. I figured out what the front 2 screws do in the cylinder chest. So there's the 2 big ones in the middle, which actually go to the boiler, and then the smaller 2 up front actually attach the front plates to the cylinders that have the 3rd cylinder linkage and stuff like that. So that's what those do. Also, the big linkage that does the 3rd cylinder assembly just kind of goes in here. And it's entirely decorative. It doesn't actually connect to anything. Like, it doesn't move this crank or anything up front. Anywho, I'm going to, this is the screw that held, the one screw left that held on the boiler. I'm going to try to fit a variety of different screws into this plate. I'm going to be amazed if I have anything that actually like fits. Odds are this is just going to be going to Lionel to get fixed because it's straight up missing hardware, and I'm pretty sure it's still under warranty. So, unless I can find some sort of hardware that fits. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see what I can find, and I'll let you guys know what happens. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I talked to my friend, and he wants to get all new hardware for it, so that's totally fair. I couldn't find any in my little bin, so I'm probably going to order some extras for myself as well, just in case, you know, I need this particular thread again for some reason, or this particular screw size and thread again. But what I'm going to do is, instead of just kind of slap it back together as is, I'm going to take one of the screws from the rocker beam and thread it up into this motor mount because the thread pitch is the same. And what that means is that I'll have this motor retained so I can put it back in the shell, and when I get the new hardware, I hopefully don't need to take the shell off again because I can just put in the two new screws in the motor, take the rocker screw out, put it back in the rocker, put the final motor mount screw in the motor, add the new screw up front, and hopefully I don't need to tweak any alignments or anything like that, and it should just be good to go. So that's what I'm going to roll with. So we're probably not going to see the inside of this engine again. So if you want to see the inside of the shell, there you go. That's the cab light. There's this big old pipe for the whistle steam, which is neat. This is the auxiliary smoke unit, which gets filled through the steam dome. And this is the smoke unit / lighting control board, I think. Or no, this is just the lighting distribution board. The smoke unit goes here, and that just plugs straight into the main motherboard on the chassis. This is the primary smoke unit, which again plugs into this guy. And then there's a whole bunch of wiring up top to run to the markers and the headlight. So yeah, and then this is the antenna because it uses the handrails. But that's the plan. I'm going to put this somewhat back together, and we're going to wait for parts. So plot twist, I put the whole thing back together, right? And I started experimenting with it to see if it's still locked up. And sure enough, it still locks up, and I am fairly certain it's this third valve link, because if I push it forward just a little bit, see how it snapped? And now it rolls freely. So I need to figure out what's going on with this crank. You can see I've already taken the bearing retainer plates off to try and get a better look at it. But yeah, I need to figure out why that's binding, and see if I can loosen something or tighten something, and see if I can get that to stop doing that. So I appear to have been on a little bit of a wild goose chase with this third cylinder, because as you can see, it's rolling very smooth. No issues, no binding, even when it's side loaded. It's just butter smooth. So I've got it all the way down to, I just have axle 4 on its own right now, which is the main drive axle. So I'm going to put it up on the test stand and see if it still does the clicking thing, and then slowly connect axles one by one until I figure out which one is the one that's causing it to bind up, because so far there really isn't a smoking gun. But we'll see. So it's not axle 4. Nor is it axles 5 or 6. Axle 3 and the eccentric crank / linkage and the expansion link also seem to be okay. And axle 1 is a pain in the neck to reconnect, but it's clicking again, which means that I'm pretty sure that is our smoking gun. I'm going to reconnect axle 2 and disconnect axle 1, even though it's a pain, and just verify that it is axle 1, and then try to figure out what exactly is getting stuck on it. So I took off all the running gear in an effort to make it a little bit easier to remove that bolt from axle 1, and it's still hooking up a little bit, even though all of the running gear is off of it. So I'm going to disconnect axle 1 now, and if it goes back to being perfectly smooth, then we know that is 100% our problem. So it's still getting hung up here on the bottom right of its stroke. And I've disconnected axle 1, so now I'm a little confused, but I guess I'm just going to go back down and try and figure out where it's going wrong. Also, yeah, I'm getting weird electrical stuff is happening because these pickup rollers are filthy and I don't want to clean them, so I'm just kind of messing with it until it gets power. But I'm going to keep tinkering with this for a little bit and let you guys know what I find. Okay, so I have a hunch. Here's the original forward main rod, and as you can see, it's got some somewhat rounded edges, but there's this flat in it. And I believe this is a reuse component from something, and this is what they had to do to make it fit. And I'm wondering if the pressure from it being attached to the side rods, or the driving wheels, and being wedged into the rear main rod is causing it to bind. So I just have some, I think this is like 220 grit or 400 grit or something. I am blind, it's 400 grit. And I'm just basically rounding out those edges a little bit more, try to make them a little bit smoother, and we'll see what that does. So after all that, I figured it out. You can see that lead driver on the side that was against the wall skipping a little bit as it comes around its stroke. Why it's doing that, I have no idea. However, I did learn that the blind driver here is really loose on its shaft and can very easily be rotated and become either, I guess, advanced or retarded for its quartering angle. So yeah, that's fun. So I've just been tweaking that a little bit at a time, trying to get this to go away. And I'm slowly making progress, but it's, as you can imagine, a very, very fine adjustment, because that is supposed to be done with a fixture that has tolerances that are way better than just my hands with a pair of pliers. And yeah, so I'm just going to keep tweaking it and hope I can get that clicking to go away. Yeah, they're not perfect, but they're pretty well quartered. Check out how smooth that is. And as I speed it up, it doesn't start clicking again. So, yeah, it turns out that driver was way too far advanced. So I had to pull it back probably, I don't even know, 4 or 5 degrees. And now it's apparently quartered, where the rest of the drivers are happy with where that one in particular is located. So all of that, me tearing it all the way down because that one wheel wasn't quartered right from the factory. Love it. That, or somebody was messing with it, as evident by the multiple missing screws, and that's what happened. But regardless, I want to say that that is fixed, so now I can finally put all this back together, verify it one more time, put the shell back on, and wait for the rest of those screws. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for tonight, at least. I'm going to wrap this thing up, and I will see you guys when I have hardware. So I don't think I explained this in the first half of the video, but check out this chuff rate. Yeah, that's 6 chuffs per revolution, which is actually correct for this engine because of those 3 cylinders. And it's really cool that Lionel actually put that in the model. I got hardware. This is for something else. These are just their hex head 2mm screws. I need to figure out which ones of these go where. But yeah, now I can start mounting these in that, and hopefully that will be done at that point because I fixed the clicking the last time, and I just tested it out and it runs good. Also, yeah, I still need to do the alligator clip thing because this has really bad ground pickup for some reason. I'm willing to bet that the blind drivers are electrically isolated, but why it's not really picking it up from the flange drivers either is beyond me. But whatever. Let's throw these in there. Well, that was remarkably easy. Yeah, I put in these 2 motor screws, pulled out the bolt that was supposed to go, or the screw that's supposed to go here, that I had put in here temporarily. Took that out, put that back in there, added the 3rd one so that the motor was all retained and aligned while I did that. Added the extra screw up here in the cylinder chest and the final screw down here under the cap to hold on the actual cap. But I can't remember if I said this in part 1 or not, but the way I had to get these screws is kind of fun. So when you look up this particular engine, or any of the newer Legacy 9000 series engines on Lionel's support site, you get nothing for parts. It's actually kind of annoying. I'm assuming it's because it's still under warranty and they're trying to sway you to use the warranty system, so that, you know, they're the ones repairing it and not you. That way if you break stuff worse, it's not as expensive for them. But me being me, I know that Lionel uses or reuses a lot of toolings, or they modify old tooling. So I had a hunch that there was a TMCC version of the 9000 series, and sure enough, 6-38029 is the TMCC 9000, and all the screws fit like a glove. So I'm fairly positive this is just a reuse of that tooling, that or they have standards for what hardware gets used where, and it makes it very cross-compatible. So if you're looking for hardware or parts that are not integral to the legacy system on this engine, such as like screws or maybe a cab or something like that, check out that part number. I'm not sure if they ran a different road number. Because it was Lionel in the TMCC era, they didn't do what they do now where they do like a million different versions of the same engine. 6-38029 may have been the only TMCC UP9000 series that was produced, because, you know, it has all like the correct crew talk and everything like that, and that was just how Lionel operated back then. So yeah, check that out if you're looking for parts for this thing. But I think that's going to do it for this engine. So there you have it. That was my repair of this Lionel Legacy equipped UP9000. And overall, on the model itself, I really don't have thoughts. I don't know. I'm very indifferent about this particular engine for some reason. It's probably a very weird engine to be indifferent about, but here we are. UP did a lot of weird stuff, and this is just another one of them. But as far as the repair itself goes, the repair was quite easy. It was just finding what was wrong that was incredibly problematic. Let me know if you guys like the sort of longer style video where I'm actually like troubleshooting stuff as I'm recording, or if you guys just want me to cut to the chase and tell you what's wrong with it, so that you have sort of a, here's the problem I'm having with my engine, here's how you fix it sort of thing. But yeah, I've never had a recorder drivers before. And if you're having a similar issue, I would highly recommend checking the running gear first, because I don't know how that drive wheel, and only that drive wheel, slipped off of its axle. Literally no clue. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you guys have had to deal with before, and how you recorder drivers if you have to do that. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I hopefully never have to deal with it again, because that was one heck of a goose chase for a while. But yeah, anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all learned something. I'm CW Hollow 1, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.